Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the developments that have led on from a group of opposition party leaders in the House of Commons demanding action over Boris Johnson's consistent use of lies in Parliament. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So, if a Minister of the Crown deliberately misleads the House of Commons, they are expected to resign. This would be a clear breach of the ministerial code. Boris Johnson and his ministers do this all the time. But Johnson himself is particularly brazen about it. That he has not resigned or been forced to resign can only be an indication that he hasn't deliberately misled Parliament. I mean, it's been accidental, poor lamb. After all, there's no suggestion that a minister need resign for making an innocent mistake. However, this being the case, Boris Johnson seems to have about half a dozen innocent mistakes every single time he goes to Parliament. So much so that he must be the most clueless head of government the world has ever seen to be accidentally getting so many things wrong on such a consistent basis. But even if we accept the notion that Boris Johnson is only accidentally misleading the House, because he's lazy and incredibly thick, which he's not, thick that is, he is lazy, but he's not as stupid as he tries to pretend. But even if you believed that he was just thick and lazy, and that's why he keeps getting things so badly wrong, he is still expected to come to the House at the earliest opportunity and correct the record. Even when Johnson's factually incorrect statements are proven, he still fails to do this. When he's been asked about it or his spokesperson's been asked about it, they say, well, someone else corrected it for them. So they'll even admit that he got it wrong, but it's like, but you're supposed to correct the record. For example, Keir Starmer got something wrong earlier this year. Apologised, corrected the record immediately. Boris Johnson gets things wrong all the time, never apologises, never corrects the record. A viral video by the quite brilliant Peter Stavanovich spends just about 2 minutes exposing some of the clearest cases of Boris Johnson breaking the ministerial code in deliberately misleading Parliament. The video has, it's quite a bit over 15 million views now. It's getting on for 20 million as I'm doing this, although the BBC News have still failed to refer people to it, even when they have been publishing articles at the same time on Johnson's lies. People are getting sick of it. Ian Blackford recently asked the Prime Minister directly if he was a liar. And this wasn't just party political barbarism. Ian Blackford, he knows how to play dirty as a politician, and I'm not going to say that he's always fair, but he has always, as far as I have known him, conducted himself with respect to Parliament. And this was an expression of frustration that Boris Johnson is brazenly lying in Parliament and nobody is doing anything about it. We know that politicians lie to get votes, or at the very least mislead. Politicians of all political leanings and all parties tell lies. I'm not saying all politicians lie. Most of them do. But there is not a single party or a part of the political spectrum where it is absent. There isn't any part of politics where it's just considered, no, we'd rather lose than lie. But where all the usual political liars behave themselves, at least, is Parliament. There they switch from lies to evasions. They'll still try and mislead, but they won't tell a lie. They use cunning in order to mislead through the truth. This is part of the political game. It's a shame, but it is what it is. But it's too much effort for Boris Johnson, who can't be bothered with a whole different approach to MPs. After all, MPs are people who definitely won't be voting for him. Why should he then show them more respect than the general population that he treats like cattle? So Ian Blackford, along with the Westminster leaders of the Lib Dems, Green Plaid, SDLP and Alliance, met with the Commons Speaker Sir Lindsay Hoyle recently to discuss ways of dealing with the issue. Unfortunately, Labour were not in on this. Their excuse was so childish that I'm wondering if they'd actually prefer Johnson to carry on as he is. After all, if a scheme could successfully bring him to heel in Parliament, he would very quickly be ripped apart. Do Labour want him to hang on as Prime Minister until the next election? Seems an unwise strategy to me, or maybe they just believe that it's doomed to failure. I don't know. It probably is doomed to failure, this plan, but I don't think that's a reason not to try. But anyway, never mind. They chose to sit this one out for some bloody stupid reason, but the other party leaders met with Hoyle, who has shown interest in working on a solution. See, there have been times when, because Johnson has refused to come to the House and correct the record, the Speaker has had to allow time for other MPs to do so. He's even made a statement himself on the issue. The most recent example was when Labour's Shadow Health Secretary Jonathan Ashworth had to come to the House to correct Johnson's false claim about Labour voting down a nursing pay rise. I mean, for goodness sake, who would believe that anyway? This was allowed so that the record was clear as to the truth of the matter, even if it wasn't the original propagator of the false statement that made the correction. So now the Procedure Committee will look at ways to make sure that inaccuracies, as it's been put, can be corrected. Now, tricky to know what will come of this. Because on the one hand, the Standards Committee is mostly, Conservative MPs. This is the thing about Parliament. Parliament is sovereign in the UK. It wields the power. That has become very clear over the last few years. It decides where delegated power is delegated. We could clearly see this when we had a situation recently where Parliament and the government were completely at odds with each other. Parliament won. It is senior to the government. However, with the way that parliamentary democracy normally works, and this is nothing to do with the electoral system, this is not first past the post, this is parliamentary democracy. If a party has a majority in Parliament, then it forms the entire government. It holds every single ministerial position going. This means that in practice, it is the government who have the power. That would suggest that the Standards Committee will not agree on any remedies that would curtail Johnson's ability to lie in Parliament, because that's all he has. He isn't clever enough to take on the intellects ranged against him on the opposition benches. He isn't competent enough to be able to claim any genuine wins for his government. His only hope lies in weaving a fantasy world where he is the living reincarnation of Winston Churchill and the British Empire has been restored to its former glory. Reality would see him utterly crushed. So it's hard to see Conservative MPs in the Standards Committee going along with this. On the other hand, not all Conservative MPs have the same level of disrespect for Parliament that their boss does, and some are as pained by Johnson's abusive behaviour as many on the opposition benches. I mean, they are rather quiet about it, you will notice. Perhaps some would want to bring some dignity back into Parliament and let Johnson stand or fall on the strength of his government, and if he falls, let someone better equipped come in and govern better. But I doubt it. Those Tory MPs who may still be in possession of a moral compass are spineless. I can sort of imagine the odd rogue Tory MP making a stand. If you remember Julian Lewis, who stitched Johnson up to get the report into Russian interference published, if he hadn't have done what he did, that still would have been kept under wraps. We still wouldn't know what it said. But this would need quite a few, I think, and the process would take some time. Julian Lewis staged his coup quickly, with no time for anyone to react. It came as a complete surprise, apart from to his co-conspirators. This would be a longer process and Johnson would absolutely dispatch the hounds to sit on them. Besides, what could they do anyway? People keep having a pop at Lindsay Hoyle for not doing enough about it. Now, I'm not enough of an expert to know if there is more he could do. What I do know is that I haven't read any suggestions of what he could do. What do people think he can do? He's not allowed to tell Johnson to tell the truth because no MP is allowed to accuse another of being a liar in Parliament. He can let MPs correct the record for him, as he has done, but that doesn't have the same power as a record of the Prime Minister admitting to his own errors. And if he were forced to correct his errors, there'd be so many that it would be very damaging politically to keep doing what he does. The problem we ultimately have here, just as in the United States, is that we have a system of government that relies on people at the very top having respect for the democratic institutions. We've had dishonest governments before, but they have observed boundaries. What we have here, and what America had in Trump, was a government that understood that there were no actual rules governing their behaviour, that they were, in actual fact, above any rules. All there were conventions, and conventions are useless against the unconventional. Unlike rules, there are no consequences for breaking conventions, just loud tutting. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. If you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.